My god, I missed the KLAWF Brute Bonnet deck, and it's back, and it just might be better than ever. Let's break it down. So, last year, about a year ago, Charizard was very much the most popular deck in format. It was huge, it was everywhere, it was really annoying to deal with. I was looking for a counter meta play that would play well into Charizard, and I came across Hisuian Electrode V. Now this card is lovely, as you can see, no energy cost for that first attack. Now, all I needed was a way to poison and burn. We got the poison through Brute Bonnet, which came out right before, or with Charizard, around the same time as Charizard. And then we also had the Spicy Seasoned Curry, which would let us burn and poison so we were easily one-hit KOing any Charizard. It was lovely. It also played really well into Shinpao and Miraidon, two other extremely popular decks at the time. If I came across any of these guys with my Electrode deck, I was confident I was going to take the win every single time. It was really nice. Then the Spicy Seasoned Curry left, and Electrode struggled. It didn't really have that way to hit for the extra amount, and I kind of thought the deck was dead. But I was wrong. Shrouded Fable came out, and all of a sudden, KLAWF Brute Bonnet has a chance again. It's really cool to see how the meta shifts and how, now that Charizard is back, now that we've got some more low 200 HP 2 prize decks back, Miraidon specifically is back, KLAWF Brute Bonnet has a chance to kind of sneak right into this meta as a really nice single prize deck. Now, just in the last few weeks, a version of this deck has placed 3rd and 44th at a regional in Joinville, Brazil, 115th at Dortmund, and 38th at Baltimore. Like, this deck has a very realistic chance of going in and upsetting a lot of decks that just haven't really practiced against KLAWF. The deck list I'll be profiling today comes to us from Alejandro Luciano Eijo, who piloted this deck to an incredible 3rd place finish in Joinville. Alright, let's break this deck down. To get us started, we've got 2 Brute Bonnets from Paradox Rift. Now, using its ability Toxic Powder, we are able to poison both active Pokemon once during your turn, as long as this Pokemon has an Ancient Booster Energy Capsule attached to it. We are going to be using this poison to poison our KLAWFs, which makes its Unhinged Scissors attack hit for 170 damage with a double turbo energy. Now, we also run Binding Mokies in order to bump the KLAWF's damage up from 170 to 210, and that's not including the poison damage, which can hit for 1 or 3 damage counters if you have a Radiant Hisuian Sneasler down. Here's this boy. His ability says, during Pokemon checkup, put 2 more damage counters on your opponent's poisoned Pokemon. Radiant Hisuian Sneasler is very important in this deck. This deck also comes with a great starter Pokemon. If you can't get the KLAWF attack turn 1, Petron's Toxic Subjugation paired with the Radiant Hisuian Sneasler can deal 8 damage counters through poison, potentially even if you're going first. This can give you a win turn 1 if they only have 1 Pokemon down and it's 80 HP or lower. This deck relies heavily on taking turn 1 knockouts, so of course it features 1 Squawkabilly EX to ensure that if you just have a Nest Ball, you essentially have a Baby Professor's Research with Squawkabilly. This can allow you to take that turn 1 knock much more consistently. This deck also has a bit of an issue with card draw and can find itself with very few cards middle and late in the game. So there's 1 copy of Pheasantipity to take advantage of how easy the KLAWFs are to knock out, and there's 1 copy of Lumineon to go and fetch out any supporter you need whenever you need it, whether that's a Colress's Experiment to go get an energy or a Boss's Order to gust up an important Pokemon. Lumineon is very important in this deck. There's also a one of Electrode V from back in the day. This is in the deck mostly for Charizard, and it can one-hit KO a Charizard still if you have the super effective glasses equipped. And there's also a one of Forest Seal Stone that can be used with either the Electrode or the Luminion, which can allow you to just go search out one card, any card, once per game. And last but certainly not least is our Game Ender Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, whose ability says that its attack, Blood Moon, costs 1 energy less for each prize card your opponent has taken, making him for an easy 240 hit end of game for no energies. Ursaluna can also be paired up with Binding Moki and Poisoned to do a whopping 280 damage, and that's not including the poison. The most important supporter we have in this deck is Arven, so obviously we're going to be running 4. Arven is huge because we use a lot of items and we use a lot of tools, and Arven can get us one of each. Early game, this can be used to go get a Nest Ball to get a Brute and an Ancient Booster Energy Capsule and get yourself set up and going just like that. 3 Boss's Orders allows us to gust as we need, and these can be huge for ending games, drawing up 2 prizers that KLAWF can reach even if there's one that he can't in the active. We have 1 Cold Resist Tenacity in the deck. This is very big. You can use Luminion to go get this, and then this to go get a Double Turbo Energy and a Stadium, which allows you to either go get an item through Town Store or a basic non-rule box Pokemon through Artisan. There is also 1 Iono in this list. This will ideally be used for late game disruption, but I have had to use it early game because my hand was just not it, and it can be very useful, especially if you have cards in your hand that you really don't want to discard but can't use at the time. And just like the inclusion of the Squawk ability, we have 1 Carmine in here to ensure that, hey, if we do go first, we still have some outs, we still have the ability to get our hand looking the way we want to through Carmine. And since this deck has a bit of trouble drawing cards, Carmine can be really useful sometimes to just get yourself a new hand. Now we are on to items, and oh boy, we have a lot. We are going to get started with arguably the most powerful, our Ace Spec inclusion, Secret Box. Secret Box is very nice in this deck because while you do have to discard 3 cards, which can be hard sometimes, being able to go get 1 supporter, 1 item, 1 stadium, and 1 tool can be an absolute game changer. This is super useful if you get it first couple turns, especially because you can just pick and choose exactly what you want. Now, Pokemon search is hugely important, so we are going to be running 4 Nest Balls and 4 Ultra Balls to make sure that we can go get our Pokemon when we need to. We also run 3 switch cards, which can come up absolutely clutch as Brute Bonnet has a hefty retreat cost of 3. So having the switch cards here is so nice, and if you can't get across a rescue board, this can also be used to get a KLAWF up into the active if you have a 1 retreat cost Pokemon up there. We play 2 Night Stretchers to make sure that we can go get some discarded Pokemon from earlier, whether it's another KLAWF to attack, or if we want to go get another supporter and Luminion's in there, whether or not Fez just got knocked out, we can go get it, immediately use it. Lots of uses for the Night Stretcher. All Pokemon, no energies obviously, because we only do special energies, but the Night Stretchers are huge late game, also our only real recovery tool, so you gotta be careful with these things. Now, since this deck can really struggle with card draw, there are 2 Trekking Shoes in here to just kind of allow you to quickly look through a couple more cards of your deck, potentially come across exactly what you need. These have come in so clutch at times. This deck does run 1 Lost Vacuum, which can be used to remove a Hero's Cape, a different deck's Ancient Booster Capsule, a pesky Stadium, or even to get rid of one of my own tools so I can then use Forest Seal Stone. Lost Vacuum is extremely clutch, nobody sees it coming, it's so freaking good in this deck. There is a 1 of Energy Lotto as well to try to facilitate getting that double turbo energy a little bit more consistently. It's also nice to have an item card that can be searched out by Arven that then could potentially get you an energy. Definitely a necessary inclusion. I wish there were better ways to get special energies consistently, but Energy Lotto does the job. And finally, there's a one of Hisuian Heavy Ball, because as you just saw, this deck is all basics. So there's a good chance that you will be prizing one or two of your important Pokemon pretty much every game. Usually you come across Hisuian Heavy Ball pretty early, and then if you have multiple basics in there, there's a good chance you might use Hisuian Heavy Ball multiple times after you pull it from your prizes. So very, very important. This can also be huge for turn 1. If you don't have a Pokemon that you need, but it's in your prizes, boom, Hisuian Heavy Ball. For stadiums, this deck runs one Artisan to make sure you can go get your non-rule box Pokemon, a Brute Bonnet, a KLAWF, or a Petrarunt. All are good options. And the other two stadiums we run are 2 town stores to absolutely make sure that we can go get our items when we need them. This can be huge. It can act as a retreat. If you have a single retreat cost Pokemon up in the active, you can go get a rescue board. Boom. Now it's free retreat. They lost vacuum your ancient booster away. Boom. Town store, another booster. Just immediately. Town store, super clutch. Great card. This deck relies heavily on its tool cards. We run 4 Ancient Booster Energy Capsules in here just to absolutely make sure we have enough. If 2 of our Brute Bonnets get knocked out somehow, we should have 2 more Ancient Boosters. If they lost vacuum them away, we need to be able to go get another one quick. Because without the Ancient Booster, this deck is dead. Very, very, very important. Also very important are our 3 copies of Binding Moki, which when attached, the poison Pokemon this card is attached to does 40 more damage on attacks, boosting our KLAWF from 170 up to 210, and that's not including the poison damage. Binding Moki is what makes this deck viable in the meta. Awesome card. Now, since we got Pokemon getting trapped in the active quite a bit, 2 rescue boards are very important. They can work to make your Pheasantipity or your Squawkabilly or your Petrarunt or your Radiant Sneasler have free retreat cost. And when your KLAWFs get knocked out a lot, having a guy on your bench with a rescue board is huge. Easy guy to put up that you can immediately switch back out. Now, we run a one of Forest Sealstone that you can use with Lumineon or Electrode, and that allows you to use a V-Star power, which is nice, and just go get one of any card. I've had to use it to go get a double turbo multiple times. I've had to use it to go get an Arven, a KLAWF, a secret box. Like, you can do anything with it. Forest Sealstone, hugely important. Great card. There's a one of Super Effective Glasses. This is also very important, specifically for the Charizard matchup. It can also maybe come into play against Roaring Moon EX if they've got an Ancient Booster, but I mean, let's be real. This is here specifically for Charizard. The energy count is pretty simple. We run 4 double turbos for the KLAWFs and potentially an Ursaluna if you have to, and 1 Jet Energy. Jet Energy acts essentially as another switch, and late game, if they have 2 prize cards left, put the Ursaluna on your bench, jet it up, and now it's got the energy it needs, and it's hitting for 240, not 220 like it would with the double turbo, and it's now in the active. So, energy count, pretty simple. I really like this energy count. I mean, obviously you can't have more double turbos. I would if you could, but I really like the inclusion of the jet as another out. This has been... It's KLAWF time, baby. Really appreciate you sticking around and watching this whole thing. You absolutely did not have to do that, so thank you. I absolutely love this deck. I think it's so fun. I think it's one of, if not the best single prize deck in the meta right now. I think Ancient Box has fallen off a bit. And yeah, stick around. I am going to have probably a vlog coming in the next week or 2 about how I do in Louisville with this baby. So, that's all. Please leave. Bye. Get out of here.